Commander Jake Morrison sat in his chair aboard the space station New Horizon. The station floated in orbit around Earth, watching for any danger from deep space. Jake had been doing this job for 10 years. Most days were quiet and boring. Today was different. "Sir, I'm getting something strange on the scanners," said Communications Officer Lisa Park. She was young, only 3 years out of the academy, but she was good at her job. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "Big energy readings coming from the outer edge of our solar system. Really big." Lisa's voice had a worried tone. "And they're moving fast. Faster than anything we've seen before." Jake looked at the screen. The readings were indeed massive. Whatever was coming their way was huge. "How long until they reach us?" "At current speed, maybe 6 hours." Jake picked up his communicator. "Command, this is New Horizon. We have unknown contacts approaching Earth. Large fleet, unknown technology." The reply came back quickly. "Copy that, New Horizon. Keep watching them. We're sending backup." But backup wouldn't be needed to watch. Within 2 hours, the visitors made themselves known. 40 massive ships appeared on the edge of Earth's solar system. They were unlike anything humans had ever seen. The ships looked like giant crystals, all sharp edges and glowing lights. Each one was bigger than Earth's largest space carrier. Then came the message. Every television, radio, and computer screen on Earth suddenly showed the same image. A creature that looked like a giant bug stood in what appeared to be a spaceship. It had 6 arms, multiple eyes, and spoke in a voice that sounded like metal scraping on stone. "I am Hive Lord Zakth of the Vorthak Dominion," the creature announced. "Your pathetic species has been chosen for integration into our empire. You have 7 of your planetary rotations to surrender completely." The alien continued its speech. "You will dismantle all military forces. You will destroy all weapons. You will prepare your population for work assignments in our labor camps. Those who resist will be killed. Those who comply will serve us for the rest of their short lives." Hive Lord Zakth raised 2 of his arms dramatically. "If you refuse, we will burn your world to ash and take what genetic material we need from your corpses. Your choice is simple, slavery or death." The transmission ended, leaving Earth in shocked silence. President Helen Davis was in a meeting when the broadcast happened. She watched it with her top advisors in the White House Situation Room. Defense Secretary Carl Wright sat to her right, his face grave. General Amy Foster, head of the Joint Chiefs, took notes as she watched. "Well," President Davis said when the message ended, "that was direct." "Ma'am, we need to call an emergency session of Congress," Secretary Wright said. "And the UN Security Council. This is bigger than just America." General Foster was looking at her tablet, reading reports that were coming in from Space Command. "Ma'am, we're getting detailed scans of their fleet now. 40 ships, each about 3 miles long. Their energy signatures are impressive." "How do we compare?" the president asked. General Foster paused, then showed her the tablet. "Well, ma'am, they have 40 ships. We currently have about 12,000 active military spacecraft in various fleets." President Davis blinked. 12,000? "Yes, ma'am. Plus another few thousand civilian ships that could be armed if needed. And we're producing about 300 new ships every month from our orbital shipyards." Secretary Wright leaned forward. "Are you saying these aliens don't know how many ships we have?" "It appears they may have underestimated us, sir." Meanwhile, across Earth, regular people were watching the news and having their own reactions. In a bar in Detroit, factory worker Pete Johnson was drinking beer with his friend Tony Garcia when the alien message played on the television above the bar. 7 days, Pete said, shaking his head. "They're giving us 7 days to surrender everything." Tony laughed and took a drink. 7 days? Hell, Pete. It takes you longer than that to change the oil in your car. "Hey, that's because I do it." "Right," Pete replied. "But seriously, these bug guys think they can just show up and scare us? Do they know how many guns we have in America alone?" The bartender, an older woman named Sue, wiped down a glass and shook her head. "My grandson is in the Space Force. He says they've got more ships than you can count up there. These aliens picked the wrong planet to mess with." In New York, office. Worker Nancy Brown was watching the news with her co-workers. "They want us to be slaves," she said, incredulous. "Do they know we fought a whole war about that already?" Her co-worker, Jim Martinez, nodded. "And we won that war, plus 2 world wars, plus a bunch of other wars. We're pretty good at fighting when we need to be." Back on the space station New Horizon, Jake Morrison was reading the latest intelligence reports. Lisa Park looked over his shoulder. "Sir, these numbers can't be right," she said. "It says here that our smallest patrol ship has more firepower than their biggest battleship." Jake double-checked the data. "Looks right to me. Our fusion reactors alone put out more energy than their entire fleet combined." "Then why are they threatening us?" Jake shrugged. "Maybe they don't know what they're dealing with. Or maybe they're used to picking on planets that can't fight back." Lisa looked at the scanner readings again. "Should we be worried?" Jake smiled. "Lisa, I've been in the military for 20 years. I've seen real threats. This?" He gestured at the screen showing the alien fleet. "This is 40 old ships with outdated weapons threatening a civilization that has conquered its entire solar system and is building colonies in other star systems. So what do? We wait. And we watch. And when our fleet shows up, these aliens are going to learn that humans don't scare easily." The 7-day countdown had begun. Earth had a choice to make, but it wasn't the choice the aliens thought they were offering. The next morning, President Helen Davis called an emergency meeting at the Pentagon. The biggest conference room was packed with military leaders, scientists, and government officials. Everyone wanted to know exactly what Earth was dealing with. Intelligence. Director Maria Santos stood at the front of the room with a huge screen behind her. She had spent all night gathering information about the alien fleet. Her team had worked without sleep to analyze every detail. "Ladies and gentlemen," Maria began, "we now have complete scans of the Vorthak fleet. Here's what we're facing." The screen showed detailed images of the alien ships. They were impressive looking, with their crystal-like surfaces and glowing energy cores. Each ship was massive, clearly built for war. 40 vessels total, Maria continued. Each ship is approximately 3 miles long. Their weapons appear to be plasma-based energy cannons. Their shields use some kind of electromagnetic field technology. General Amy Foster raised her hand. "How do their weapons compare to ours?" Dr. Alex Chen, head of the Space Defense Analysis Division, stood up. He was a thin man with thick glasses who had spent his whole career studying military technology. "General, that's where things get interesting. Their main weapons have an energy output of roughly 50 terawatts per ship." "And our weapons?" President Davis asked. Dr. Chen smiled slightly. "Our standard destroyer-class ships carry weapons that output about 200 terawatts. Our battleships can hit 800 terawatts per main gun. And our dreadnought carriers can produce over 2,000 terawatts per primary weapon system." The room was quiet for a moment. Defense Secretary Carl Wright broke the silence. "So their biggest guns are weaker than our smallest guns?" "Significantly weaker, sir." Admiral Kate Sullivan, commander of the Solar Defense Fleet, looked at her tablet. "Dr. Chen, what about their numbers? They seem to think 40 ships is a large fleet." "That's another interesting point, Admiral. According to our current military records, we have 12,347 active military spacecraft. That includes everything from patrol frigates to heavy battleships." President Davis blinked. 12,000? "Yes, ma'am. And that doesn't count civilian ships that could be converted for military use if needed. We also have 17 orbital shipyards currently producing new vessels. Our current production rate is about 300 ships per month." The president turned to General Foster. "Amy, do these aliens know any of this?" General Foster shook her head. "It doesn't appear so, ma'am. Their demand message suggests they think they're dealing with a primitive civilization. They seem to believe that 40 ships represents overwhelming force. Meanwhile, the aliens were trying to understand Earth's response. Aboard the Vorthak flagship, Hive Lord Zakth was meeting with his war council. The massive insect-like creature was confused by what his scouts were reporting. "You say the humans are not panicking?" he asked his intelligence officer, a smaller alien called Subcommander Vex. "No, my lord. Our monitoring of their communications shows unusual responses. Many humans seem to be laughing at our ultimatum. Hive Lord Zakth's multiple eyes focused on Vex. Laughing? They dare to laugh at the might of the Dominion? Yes, my lord. And their military forces have not moved to surrender positions. Instead, they appear to be organizing. Organizing for what? Vex hesitated. We're not sure, my lord, but we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout their solar system, far more than we expected from a primitive world. Back on Earth, the human response was becoming clearer. Admiral Ryan Murphy, who commanded deep space operations, was in his office at Luna Base talking with his staff. His aide, Captain Ben Rodriguez, had just finished reading the latest intelligence reports. Admiral, I have to ask, Captain Rodriguez said, are we sure these aliens are serious? Because their threat assessment of us seems incomplete. Admiral Murphy looked out the window at the Earth rising over the lunar horizon. Ben, I've been in space combat for 30 years. I've seen real threats. The Titan Rebellion, the Mars Independence War, the asteroid belt conflicts. This alien fleet wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes in any of those fights. So what do? We treat them seriously, but we also make sure they understand what they're dealing with. Sometimes the best way to avoid a fight is to show exactly how badly you could win it. On Earth, regular people were starting to understand the situation better. In the same Detroit bar where Pete Johnson and Tony Garcia had watched the alien message, the conversation had moved beyond jokes. I looked it up online, said Sue, the bartender. We've got more ships in space than these aliens have probably ever seen. My grandson sent me some numbers. It's not even close. Pete nodded. My brother works at the shipyard in orbit. He says, they're building ships faster than they can find crews for them. Has been for years. Tony was reading something on his phone. Says here that one of our patrol ships took out 3 pirate vessels last month near Jupiter. Those pirates had better weapons than these aliens claim to have. The conversation was interrupted when the bar's television suddenly activated. Every screen on Earth was showing the same thing again. Hive Lord Zakth appeared, looking even more intimidating than before. Humans of Earth, the alien leader said, you have ignored our generous offer. Perhaps you do not understand the power of the Dominion. We will provide a demonstration. The screen switched to show space near Earth's moon. One of the alien ships fired its main weapon at a small asteroid. The asteroid was completely destroyed in a flash of brilliant light. This is the fate that awaits your world if you continue to resist, Hive Lord Zakth continued. Surrender now or face the consequences. The transmission ended, leaving Earth to consider this demonstration of alien power. In the Pentagon, the military leadership watched the demonstration with professional interest. Dr. Chen was already analyzing the energy readings. Interesting, he said, typing on his tablet. The energy output was exactly what we predicted, about 50 terawatts. General Foster looked at him. And how does that compare to our mining operations? Well, General, last week our asteroid mining station at Ceres destroyed a rock twice that size using a standard industrial laser. The mining laser we used produces about 70 terawatts. President Davis rubbed her forehead. So they just demonstrated that their ultimate weapon is weaker than our mining equipment? Essentially, yes, ma'am. Admiral Sullivan stood up. Ma'am, I think it's time we showed them what they're actually dealing with, not to threaten them, but to help them understand the situation. What do you suggest? Let me take a small patrol fleet to meet them. Just 10 ships. Nothing threatening, but enough to open a dialogue and show them that we're not the primitive species they think we are. President Davis considered this. Just 10 ships? Yes, ma'am. More than enough to handle their entire fleet if necessary, but small enough to not seem aggressive. The president nodded. Do it. But Admiral, try to talk first. Maybe we can end this without anyone getting hurt. The 7-day countdown continued, but Earth was no longer waiting passively. Humanity was about to show the Fourth Act Dominion exactly what they had gotten themselves into. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, humanity's newest and most advanced carrier. Around her, 10 of Earth's finest warships prepared for their meeting with the alien fleet. These weren't Earth's biggest or most powerful ships. They were just a small patrol group, the kind that normally handled pirates or smugglers. "Ma'am, we're approaching the alien fleet," reported Navigation Officer Danny Walsh. "They're holding position exactly where they said they would." "B." Admiral Sullivan nodded. "Open a communication channel. Let's see if we can talk to them." The main screen lit up, showing Hive Lord Zakth on his command ship. The alien leader looked even more intimidating up close, with his multiple eyes and sharp claws. But Admiral Sullivan had dealt with dangerous creatures before. "I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Forces," she said calmly. "We received your message. We'd like to discuss your demands." Hive Lord Zakth leaned forward. "There is nothing to discuss, human. You will surrender or you will die. Those are your only choices." "I understand you believe that," Admiral Sullivan replied, "but I think there might be some misunderstandings about our capabilities. Perhaps we should clarify a few things. Your pathetic fleet means nothing to the might of the Dominion." Zakth roared. "We have conquered 100 worlds. Your 10. Ships cannot stand against our 40. Admiral Sullivan looked around her bridge. Her crew was trying not to smile. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Blake, her tactical officer, was quietly running scans of the alien vessels. The results were exactly what Earth's intelligence had predicted. "Hive Lord Zakth," Admiral Sullivan said politely, "I respect your confidence, but before we go any further, I should mention that these 10 ships aren't our main fleet, they're just a patrol group." "Lies! You bring your strongest ships to face us." "Actually, no. Our main battle fleet is about 1,000 times larger than this group, and much more heavily armed." The alien leader's multiple eyes blinked in confusion. "Impossible. No species could build so many ships." Admiral Sullivan turned to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Murphy, please show our guest the current fleet positions." Lieutenant Ted Murphy's fingers flew over his controls. The main screen split, showing a tactical display of Earth's solar system. Thousands of green dots appeared, each representing a human warship. They were everywhere, orbiting Earth, patrolling near Mars, guarding the asteroid belt stationed around Jupiter. Hive Lord Zakth stared at the display. "This cannot be accurate." "I assure you it is," Admiral Sullivan said. "And that's just our active military vessels. It doesn't include reserve fleet civilian ships that can be armed or the new ships being built in our orbital yards." The alien leader was quiet for a long moment. Then he seemed to recover his confidence. "Numbers mean nothing if your ships are weak. Our weapons will destroy you easily." "Would you like to test that theory?" Admiral Sullivan asked. "Yes. We will show you the power of the Dominion." Admiral Sullivan sighed. She had hoped to avoid this. "Very well. But let's make this a controlled demonstration. You fire at one of our ships, and we'll show you what our weapons can do. Fair enough?" "Hive Lord." Zakth laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Fair? You offer us fairness? Very well, human. We will demonstrate why you should fear us." The alien flagship turned its main weapons toward the UES Liberty. Energy built up along the crystal-like structures on the ship's hull. With a brilliant flash, the alien weapon fired. The plasma beam struck the Liberty's shields. The ship's defensive screens absorbed the energy without any visible strain. The bridge crew didn't even feel a tremor. "Interesting," Admiral Sullivan said, looking at her tactical display. "Lieutenant Blake, what was the energy output of that weapon?" 52 terawatts, ma'am. Well within our shield parameters." Admiral Sullivan turned back to the communication screen. "Thank you for the demonstration, Hive Lord Zakth. That was illuminating. Now, would you like to see one of our weapons?" The alien leader looked confused. His ship's most powerful weapon had done absolutely nothing to the human vessel. "Your shields. How is this possible?" "Our shields are designed to handle much more powerful attacks," Admiral Sullivan explained. "Now for our demonstration. Lieutenant Blake, please. Target the asteroid at coordinates 77 Mark 4. Use a low-power setting." "Yes, ma'am." "Setting main cannon to 15% power." The Liberty's primary weapon charged up. Unlike the alien weapons, there was no dramatic light show. The human weapon looked almost boring compared to the flashy alien plasma cannons. But when it fired, the results were spectacular. The asteroid, which was about the same size as the one the aliens had destroyed earlier, didn't just explode, it was completely vaporized, turned into glowing gas that dispersed into space. 15% power, Admiral Sullivan said calmly. Our standard operating procedure for asteroid clearing. Hive Lord Zakth stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been. What was the energy output of that weapon? Lieutenant Blake checked her readings. 320 terawatts, sir. Again, that was at 15% power. The communication channel was quiet. Finally, Hive Lord Zakth spoke, his voice much less confident than before. What would happen at full power? At full power? Admiral Sullivan considered this. We'd probably damage our own ship from the energy discharge. We rarely need to use more than 30% power for anything. Another alien voice came over the communication channel. It was Sub-Commander Vex, Zakth's intelligence officer. Admiral Sullivan, may I ask a question? Of course. You said this fleet was just a patrol group. What would your main battle fleet look like? Admiral Sullivan turned to Lieutenant Murphy. Show them the third fleet. The tactical display changed, showing a different part of space near Jupiter. Hundreds of ships appeared on the screen, ranging from small destroyers to massive dreadnought, carriers that dwarfed anything the aliens had brought. The third fleet is one of our smaller battle groups, Admiral Sullivan explained. We have 12 such fleets plus various specialized forces. Hive Lord Zakth was studying the display with all of his eyes. Those largest ships, how powerful are they? Our dreadnought carriers? Each one could probably handle your entire fleet alone. They're designed for fighting large-scale battles against multiple opponents. The alien leader slumped in his command chair. We did not know. Our intelligence said Earth was a primitive world with limited technology. Your intelligence was incomplete, Admiral Sullivan said gently. We're not a primitive species. We've been exploring space for over a century. We've colonized most of our solar system and we're starting to expand to other star systems. Sub-Commander Vex spoke up again. Admiral, what do you intend to do with us? Admiral Sullivan considered this. That depends on you. You came here threatening to destroy our world and enslave our people. That was unacceptable. But you're not the first species to make mistakes about humanity. What are our options? Hive Lord Zakth asked quietly. Well, you could try to fight us, but I think we've established how that would end. Or you could withdraw peacefully and never threaten Earth again. Or... Admiral Sullivan paused. Or what? Or we could talk. Really talk. About trade. About cooperation. About the possibility of peaceful relations between our species. But that would require you to completely change your approach. Hive Lord Zakth looked at his bridge crew, then back at Admiral Sullivan. Admiral, I need to consult with my war council. May we have some time to consider our options? Of course, take all the time you need. We'll be right here. The communication ended, leaving the human fleet waiting patiently while the aliens tried to figure out what to do next. Admiral Sullivan had a feeling this was going to be a very different kind of first contact than anyone had expected. 3 hours later, Hive Lord Zakth called Admiral Sullivan back. The alien leader looked very different from before. His aggressive posture was gone. Instead, he seemed tired and confused. Admiral Sullivan, he began, my war council and I have discussed our situation. We have made a terrible mistake. We all make mistakes. Admiral Sullivan replied kindly. The important thing is what we do next. We wish to surrender to your superior forces. Admiral Sullivan shook her head. We don't want your surrender, Hive Lord Zakth. We want to understand why this happened. Why did you think threatening Earth was a good idea? The alien leader was quiet for a moment. For 300 years, the Vorthak Dominion has expanded across this region of space. Every world we found was primitive. Every species we encountered had simple technology. We thought all life was like this. Sub-Commander Vex spoke up from beside his leader. "Admiral, we have conquered over 50 worlds in our expansion. None of them had more than a few dozen spacecraft. Most had none at all." "I see," Admiral Sullivan said. "So you developed a pattern. Find a world, threaten them, and they surrender because they can't fight back." "Exactly," Hive Lord Zakth admitted. "It has always worked before. We assumed Earth would be the same." Admiral Sullivan turned to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Murphy, patch me through to Earth Command. I think President Davis should hear this." A few minutes later, President Helen Davis appeared on the screen alongside Admiral Sullivan. The president looked calm but serious. "Hive Lord Zakth," President Davis said. "I'm Helen Davis, leader of Earth's government. Admiral Sullivan has told me about your conversation." The alien leader looked even more uncomfortable. "President Davis, we offer our formal apology for threatening your world. We did not understand what we were dealing with." "I appreciate that," President Davis said. "But I need to understand something. In your expansion across 50 worlds, did any of those species ever ask you to stop? Did anyone try to negotiate?" Hive Lord Zakth's multiple eyes looked down. "Some tried to negotiate. We did not listen. We believed that strength was the only thing that mattered in the universe. And now? Now we realized that we were not the strongest. We were simply picking on those who could not defend themselves." President Davis nodded. "That's an important realization. So what do you plan to do about it?" The question seemed to confuse the alien leader. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what about those 50 worlds you conquered? What about all those species you enslaved? Are you going to free them?" Hive Lord Zakth looked at Sub-Commander Vex, then back at the screen. We had not considered that." Admiral Sullivan leaned forward. "Hive Lord Zakth, let me ask you something. If we wanted to, we could destroy your entire fleet in about 10 minutes. We could then follow you back to your homeworld and demand that you surrender to us. How would that make you feel?" "Terrible," the alien admitted. "Frightening. Wrong." "Then you understand how those 50 species felt when you did it to them." There was a long silence. Finally, Hive Lord Zakth spoke. "What do you want us to do?" President Davis answered. "We want you to go home. We want you to free the worlds you've conquered. We want you to apologize to every species you've wronged. And then, if you're interested, we can talk about starting over. Starting over? Trade. Cultural exchange. Cooperation instead of conquest. There's a big universe out there, Hive Lord Zakth. There's room for everyone to grow and prosper without taking from others." Sub-Commander Vex spoke up. "President Davis, may I ask how your species became so powerful? How did you build such a vast fleet?" President Davis smiled. "Competition and cooperation. We had many nations on our world and they competed with each other. But when we faced external threats, we learned to work together. When we went to space, we brought both attitudes with us." "Competition and cooperation?" Hive Lord Zakth asked. "How can you have both?" "We compete to make better ships, better technology, better ideas," Admiral Sullivan explained. "But we cooperate when facing outside challenges. It makes us stronger than any single group could be alone." The alien leader thought about this. The Dominion has always been about one group controlling all others. We never considered working together as equals. "It's not too late to learn," President Davis said. "But you'll need to prove that you're serious about changing." "How?" "Start by freeing one world. Pick one of the species you conquered and give them back their freedom. Show them and us that you really mean to change." Hive Lord Zakth discussed something with his crew in their alien language. Then he turned back to the humans. "The Kepler system. We conquered it 12 years ago. The species there, the Kef, they tried to negotiate with us. We enslaved them anyway." "Go free them," President Davis said. "Show them that the Dominion can be better than it was. And when you're done, contact us. We'll be here." "And if we do this," Sub-Commander Vex asked, "what happens then?" Admiral Sullivan answered. "Then we'll know you're serious about peace. And we can start talking about the future instead of the past." The alien fleet began to withdraw the next day. But before they left, Hive Lord Zakth sent one final message to Earth. President Davis, Admiral Sullivan, people of Earth, we came here as conquerors. You showed us that we were not as strong as we believed, but more importantly, you showed us that strength without wisdom is meaningless. We will free the Kef, and then we will free the others. It will take time, but we will do it. We hope you do, President Davis replied, and we'll be here when you're ready to talk. 6 months later, Earth received another message from the Vorthak Dominion, but this time it wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. People of Earth, the message began, this is Hive Lord Zakth, now serving as ambassador of the reformed Vorthak Republic. We have freed 15 worlds so far, with more to follow. The Kef have agreed to help us contact the other species we wronged. We are learning what it means to be neighbors instead of conquerors. The message continued. We would like to invite a delegation from Earth to visit our home world. We want to learn from you. We want to understand how to build a civilization based on cooperation instead of conquest. Will you help us? President Davis discussed the invitation with her advisors. General Foster was cautious but optimistic. Ma'am, our intelligence says they're telling the truth. They really are freeing the worlds they conquered. And they're asking for help, not demanding it. Admiral Sullivan added. That's a big change from 6 months ago. President Davis made her decision. We'll send a small diplomatic mission. Ambassador Julie Watson can lead it. But we'll also keep our fleets ready, just in case. 3 months later, Ambassador Watson stood on the bridge of the diplomatic ship, U.S. Harmony, as it approached the Vorthak homeworld. Beside her, Hive Lord Zakth looked out at his planet with new eyes. It looks different now, he said quietly. Before I saw it as the center of an empire, now I see it as just one world among many. That's wisdom, Ambassador Watson replied. The universe is big enough for all of us. As their ship entered orbit, Zakth turned to her. Ambassador Watson, may I ask you something? Of course. When your species first met us, we threatened to destroy your world. Why did you choose to help us instead of simply destroying us? Ambassador Watson smiled. Because that's what neighbors do. They help each other learn and grow. And besides, the universe is more interesting with friends in it. Hive Lord Zakth nodded slowly. We are still learning what it means to be friends instead of conquerors, but we want to learn. Then that's where we'll start, Ambassador Watson said. 1. Lesson at a time.